this is Joshua.
And Josh too.
And welcome back to the Graveyard Shift podcast. Now, originally we intended this episode to be a video review, but we were having problems with my camera, so I'm probably going to have to go and get a new one or something like that. In the meantime, I guess for reviews and stuff like that, it's going to be podcasts for a while, so.
Which you guys probably won't mind because we're both ugly anyhow.
Although he's the ugliest.
It's not what all the lady folks say.
Then why do you wear a mask? What do you got? Enough with the joking around. So today the movie we got to review is the new Candyman from, this year, 2021.
Don't say his name.
Candyman!
I heard you're looking for Candyman. Rated R. In theaters Friday.
Candyman stars Yaha Abdul-Mateen II. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Nathan Stewart Jennett, Rebecca Spence, Brian King, Casey Kramer, Coleman Domingo, and Tayona Paris.
And it's directed by Nia DaCosta. The plot of Candyman is that for decades, the housing projects of Chicago's Cabrini Green were terrorized by a ghost story about a supernatural hook-handed killer. In present day, an artist begins to explore the macabre history of Candyman, not knowing it would unravel his sanity and unleash a terrifying wave of violence that puts him on a collision course with destiny. Here we are talking about the new Candyman movie, and it's been a long time coming. We weren't able to see this in the theater when it came out. This was definitely up there with one of my more anticipated films of this year. I'm not sure about you, Josh.
Yeah. Well, what else came out this? Oh, Halloween Kills.
Yeah, and Spiral.
Oh, yeah, it was in my top 5.
Yeah, it was definitely up there for me, and especially since I love the original Candyman. And here's the thing, I have done reviews of the Candyman franchise before over on my old channel, Blood Moon Productions, but I do eventually plan on doing a revisited review of the original. Maybe Josh could join in on that one, because it's an older review. I feel like I could go more in depth on it. So there were some things I was kind of curious on about this one. The fact that it was being produced by Jordan Peele, which I've only seen one of his films. I saw Get Out, which was pretty good. Have you seen any of his films yet, Josh? No?
I think this was it.
This was the only one that you saw that he had hand on, and I was really looking forward to this one because I love the original Candyman. So, and the fact that this was a sequel, it was probably how in 2018 where all the sequels didn't exist, and the only film acknowledged was the original.
Yeah.
Which honestly, for me, I think no matter how this film turned out, probably was a good move, because those sequels
were a little bit rough.
Well, a little bit rough, especially Candyman 3, which that was like, woof. Yeah. It was bad. If I were to do a Candyman movie, that'd probably be the move I'd do, is ignore sequels and just only acknowledge the first film. Because the first film, in my opinion, is the only one really worth watching. Now, where would this new one, this reboot, sequel, or I guess some people are calling it these now requels, so, because it's like
a reboot and a sequel?
Yeah. Where would this one fall in our placement? I guess we'll discuss that. Right now, we want to talk about our positive films.
My victim.
I really liked the artsy layout of the filmmaking. It felt like a very high-class movie.
It felt very classy, especially for modern horror films. I wasn't expecting that, actually. And I agree with you. It was a very classy film in the way it was shot, edited, just everything. I was really blown away by the visuals. I mean, we watched it on the DVD copy. It
was just 1080.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was 4K all day long. It was very
and to be fair, we were watching on the 4K TV, but man, this film looked like it was shot in 4K. It wasn't like, shot in 1080 and then
upscaled to it.
Like converted into 4K in post. It didn't look like that.
Yeah.
It looked like this was meant to be a 4K experience. It looked great. The visual style, like from the color palette and stuff like that, it really looked great. Like, there was a lot of gray, but somehow there was a lot of color.
A lot of dark, deep color. I noticed the greens the most. Like, the greens were like...
Even like some of the darker colors, like there's some browns.
And like the red that he has in his hat, that stuck out pretty solid. It was impressive.
Yeah, so The visuals were pretty good. Even like the other aspects of the cinematography, like the camera movements were so
smooth,
and fluid, especially when there's shots of somebody walking. It was just great.
Yeah.
It's like
they did the kills pretty amazingly without gore.
Which also goes hand in hand with the cinematography.
Yeah.
Basically, whenever there was a kill scene in that, it was all subject of mirrors were always a part of the Candyman.
Because you couldn't see him without the mirror, you know?
Like, the original you did, but this time it was a bit different.
That's
this was the first time they actually did that.
Yeah. And that makes it it makes Candyman way spookier, you know?
Yeah, it's like you go and see him in mirrors and all that. Therefore, too, like, they had to get really creative with how they shot the kills. And I mean, hell, there's sometimes be certain moments where it's like seeing some moments of the kills on a very small mirror.
Oh, like the makeup mirror?
Oh, yeah, like
the foundation mirror or whatever?
Yeah, it's like... That had to be really tough to do. Sometimes some people will only see him in the mirror, and then when they're not looking in the mirror, they can still see stuff being affected.
Oh, like that screen getting torn and stuff? Yeah.
So, like you saw in the mirror, Candyman just scraping.
And then he looks towards the screen, and it's still tearing, but there's nobody there.
Yeah. I really like that addition, actually. And
it almost made it feel like paranormal, you know?
Which Candyman was already a paranormal type entity.
So,
like, he was a urban legend.
Right.
You know, it's like, say his name 5 times.
It made it feel more like, almost like Paranormal Activities for a second, though, you know? Just for a second, and then it went back to Candyman, you know?
But, yeah, I really liked how, and not that too, the violence isn't that grotesque.
No. And you kind of get why he is who he is too, you know, or what he is.
Well, he did in the original as well.
I think you got it even more in this, though. Yeah. I think that's one thing this movie had over the original.
That's because they added some stuff to the lore.
Right.
You know? Right. And not just, the original Candyman, who was portrayed by Tony Todd, Daniel Robitaille. So, but apparently in this film, I mean, not giving spoilers, I think the trailers did indicate this, that there's other candy people, you know? Even the first film kind of hinted at, if you remember at the end, Helen Lyle, her ex-husband basically was saying her name 5 times in the mirror, and she showed up as a candy man like persona and kills him. So,
Candy woman.
Yeah, Candy woman.
Equality here, dude.
But still, it's like, and then she ended up becoming the legend of Cabrini Green.
Right.
So.
Right.
Which you still see that in this movie.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like characters talking about the story of Candyman and all that, and mentioning a lot of Helen Lyle and that.
And see, and then there's that aspect I liked better in the first film, was there was more equality when they were pushing their social points. But I also think, like their social points in this was pretty smooth too. It wasn't too.
Yeah, and let's talk about that social commentary for a bit. I will say that for people who doesn't like hearing any thing of social issues, it's like if you hear any bits that talk about race and
they're
stuff,
probably gonna have some issues.
This is probably not your movie. One of the things I was kind of worried about with this film is whether or not how heavy-handed it was going to be with its messaging, But honestly, it was pretty subtle, actually. I mean...
it was heavy in parts, but it wasn't abrasive, right? So, like, if you look at, like, the Black Christmas movie, it gets abrasive.
Like the 2019 remake?
Yeah, it's super...
In your face?
Yeah, and almost offending, and almost tries to be offending,
Which will eventually have to get to that movie at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but movies like that compared to this is, like, fine, it's not a big...
Well, I was actually very surprised by how they handled the commentary.
Yeah.
Which... I was, kind of worried about. It's like, because especially now these days, sometimes commentary seems like
it's the whole damn movie.
Yeah, like basically for some people, it's like, they basically made a movie surrounding a social issue.
Yeah.
Without actually developing a good story with what relatable and characters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Satisfying conclusions. I don't think they really did that with this one. I think they had a story to tell. They did have some likable characters, which that's another film we'll talk about. Satisfying ending.
They had a big part of it was their social commentary, but they also had a good story and they weren't
Had good characters.
and they weren't being offensive with their social commentary, you know. When I'm okay with the offensive stuff too, I enjoy that most of the time too. It's just I see how that does bother people sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, and it's like for me, you know, I'm not something, you know, like
Right off the bat, yeah.
you know, hell, I know there's people out there who would probably be screaming at this movie, claiming that it's woke or something like that, just
Yeah.
because there's black people in it.
Yeah, we have a few people that we personally know that like it's anything. If it has a woman in it, it's like it's woke. It's like, what? Dude.
And let's just get this right on the bat. This film is not woke.
No.
Here's the thing, something that's been kind of bothering me with some of these people is that they kind of use the term woke and
To envelop anything that has any social commentary at all in it.
yeah,
you know?
and honestly, the definition of woke for you people who don't really know, in fact, honestly, I didn't really know, because whenever these people would talk about woke and that and give their, it's like they don't really, it's almost like it's either a skewed description or they don't give a description of what it means at all. So if you go online and that, the definition of woke is being highly, like just being aware of, you know, just certain social injustices, especially
racism, sexism,
all that stuff.
and this movie does touch on that, you know,
Yeah.
that's part of that is like the basis to the story.
That's you know how Candyman was crafted. It was out,
Right.
you know, racial injustice.
Right, but they didn't. It's not like they took the original movie that wasn't woke and made it woke, because that is the basis of this. Is
Yeah.
racism is an issue. You know what I mean?
In fact, again, the character Candyman was created through racial injustice.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and what I caught from this wasn't just racial injustice. It was any injustice could create a Candyman.
Yeah.
Right. That was what it was just in Cabrini Green. And that part of the world, that is what was mostly causing it.
It was
you know?
racism.
Right.
So.
Right. But anybody that died wrongfully, like Helen, you know,
Yeah.
could come back
Which
as
he did,
vengeance.
which he
you know?
did at the end of the first movie.
Right.
So, you know, that's one of the things I liked about the original, and even like with this, is that it could speak onto you for, you know,
Multiple
things. And I feel like too, in my personal opinion, I feel like a story like Candyman, you know, shouldn't just be about, you know, the topic of racism. You know,
Right. It's all injustice.
Yeah, it's all injustices. Which I'll kind of explore that a bit in Mine and Apes Candyman movie that we're developing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and speaking of, like, because one of the things we mentioned is good characters, let's talk about the characters while we're at it. And the acting. Your thoughts on the characters and the acting?
It's pretty mindset warping acting, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got like that, but by the end of the movie, it was kind of like, it kind of screws you up in your head in a good way. You know, it does it the way it's supposed to.
And I think they did that because, you know, that's what the main character is going through.
Right.
You know, it's like
Right.
trying to, you know, put you in the mindset of the main character.
He does a good enough job acting. Well, all of them do that. It does make you feel that. You know?
You know, like, there was not a bad actor in this movie, I think. Especially within our leads and that. So, the people who you're supposed to be following.
There's a couple of people I was for sure rooting to get killed, but you know.
But they did so well.
Yeah.
They did so well.
Yeah.
It's like you just want.
You know what? That wasn't their acting. Their acting was still good. That was the writing that made you want them to get killed. You know.
Let me just talk about, like, the main lead. I think his name is Yaha Abdul Mateen II. I've only seen him in one other thing, and that was in Aquaman. He was actually one of the villains of Black Manta,
Right.
and he was pretty good in that. So, I knew he was going to do at least a good job in this, but man, he was actually really good in this. So,
He actually, it's a movie not very many people have seen, and but he reminds me a lot of Johnny Depp in Secret Window in this movie, you know? And that's a movie that's kind of controversial because some people like it and some people don't. But it was like the slow slide into insanity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That really is catching.
which that, I mean, he, in a lot of ways, went through the same thing Helen Lyle went through in the first film, because
She didn't really lose her marbles,
She
though.
kind of did.
A little bit.
You know, in fact, she was framed for murder and all that stuff, you know.
Right,
like,
but she still held composure, though. Like, by the end of this movie, he was barely able to talk, you know? He had lost it so much, you know?
Yeah, so... But yeah, like... And again, all these characters, like, especially the main leads, were all very likable,
Right.
you know?
Right.
I didn't want to see anything bad happen to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about, but you'd have to... Because the twists were a big part of the...
Yeah. What about the music?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I liked some of the artist stuff they used. I thought the uses of the Candyman song from Willy Wonka was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, and how, like, the text and that were all mirrored and that. I'm like...
It's a witty...
Yeah,
witty
honestly,
way
for
to
me,
do it.
I'd be like... If it wasn't in this movie, it probably would have been in my name's Candyman movie.
Yeah.
So I liked that bit of touch. And then even, like, the music that was composed for the film was pretty good. Well, okay, I'm kind of mixed on that, so...
My victim.
Okay, so one of the things I'm rather mixed on is the music, which I don't know who composed the music for this. I'll probably put his or her name on the screen.
Charlie Clouser.
No, it wasn't. Because for me, the original music for the original film, composed by Philip Glass, was pretty good, actually.
This was more modern, though.
Yeah, more modern. I mean, I know there was... It sounded like there were some touches of Philip Glass's, you know, style.
Like in the beginning opening credits.
And of course they did a remix of, I think it's called like Helen's Theme and that from the first one during the end credits. It's like much more darker tone version of it.
Right.
So.
Well, and for quite a bit of it too, there wasn't
much music.
Yeah. Which I was okay with.
Yeah, I was okay with.
Yeah.
It makes it different, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it helped with the sliding into insanity part, actually, like the peace, you know, because it was just quiet, you know. The only thing that I'm mixed on that I didn't hate, but I didn't like absolutely love it either, was there were a group of characters that didn't. There was 3 or 4 characters that did not need to be in the movie, and they added absolutely nothing to it, and they were just thrown in there for social commentary, and that bothered me. But it didn't bother me enough that I was like, oh, this is a terrible decision, because it was an okay decision.
Yeah,
it's just okay unneeded, you know.
Like it didn't anger me or frustrate me. It's like
so like her brother and her brother's boyfriend, right? They were only pretty much in there for social commentary.
I don't think they were only in there for social commentary. I think they were kind of more to comic relief. You know?
Is that what they were trying to go after?
Yeah, I think so.
Couldn't you have lived without them, though? Like,
yeah, we could have definitely lived without them. I mean, they weren't terrible characters.
No, I don't think they were terrible actors. It's just I didn't see why they were in the movie. You know, like they weren't. The only thing I could think of in comic relief also makes sense. I just thought maybe they were trying to add another.
I guess it's like comic relief, you know, because you need sometimes
uptick to it,
yeah, doses of comedy to kind of as tension relief.
Yeah, I didn't think this movie needed that, man.
Yeah,
I think we would have been okay without it. But saying that though, I think their acting was just fine.
Oh yeah, I thought their acting was, you know, it was good.
Yeah.
But I will agree with you. I felt like they didn't really add too much to the film.
Yeah.
Again, not the actor's faults or anything.
Right.
I just think that's more in line with the writing.
One other thing I'm mixed on. There was, in that bathroom kill scene, right? There was that little girl that went into the stall and put her headphones on. Mm-hmm. I totally thought they were going to utilize her more. Because, I mean, her acting was pretty phenomenal. And I thought that she was going to have a bigger connection to Candyman than... Because they just kind of let that drop, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she seemed like she would have had a bigger connection to the whole story.
So with that said, I'm going to give Candyman 2021 a 4 out of 5 stars.
I think I'd give it close to the same. I think I'd say 4 and... I'm torn between 4 and 4.5, really. So it'd either be a weak 4 or a strong 4 or a weak 4.5, you know, so...
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So this film was pretty good. It was yet another surprise for me. I think that was for you too.
This year did pretty damn good for movies.
Yeah.
And TV shows. I mean, this was a pretty phenomenal year.
I think it was better than last year.
Yeah.
Even
even video games, man. Like it was a pretty good entertainment year in general.
Yeah. So hopefully that means more. Here's more to good. Stuff in entertainment.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's one of the good things that came out of the pandemic for most people is people have a higher passion for stuff now. They seen that maybe their life didn't need to be as bland as it was, and people are gaining a higher passion for things,
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's like. But yeah, so we are going to discuss spoilers. So if you have not seen this movie, which I highly recommend you do, especially if you're a fan of the original Candyman. But even not, I feel like this is one of those movies I will say you could probably jump in and watch.
Yeah, without seeing the first.
Without seeing the first. Because they do recap it quite a bit in the first film.
Actually, it might be better off if you didn't see the first one.
I don't know. I think maybe it might be. I don't know. I guess it's one of those things where you and I would have to probably maybe one of these days watch the first one again and then watch this one.
Yeah. I think there's 5 seconds of this movie that if you didn't see the first one, you wouldn't get, and it's one of the best 5 seconds of the movie, So.
Yeah. So we're going to discuss spoilers. So we're going to discuss stuff like the ending and some of the twists and reveals in this movie. So if you have not seen this movie and you really hate spoilers and that you don't want to know anything about the big stuff, then just click off this video. But before you do, make sure to hit that like button. Comment down below what's your thoughts on the new Candyman and everything. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Or were you were you indifferent to the film? Did you thought this was a worthy sequel to the original, or did you actually prefer the sequels that they ignored? I'm actually kind of curious about that. Also, too, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That really helps out my channel and that. Now we're going to get into spoilers, so you have been warned. And for those who have seen the movie or just don't give a shit about spoilers,
I disagree with that. If you haven't, this movie in particular, if you haven't seen it, just don't watch the end of this. Give a shit for this movie.
Okay. But yeah, then just stick around. But again, if you care about spoilers and stuff like that and you haven't seen the movie, just, I guess we'll be seeing you next time. Thank you guys for watching. And now on to spoiler talk. You have been warned. We're going to discuss some of the twist reveals and stuff like that. And one of these, I guess, isn't necessarily spoiler because it's it kind of indicated this in the trailer. So the main character, I think his name is Anthony, was for the trailer it seemed to indicate that he is going to become the new Candyman. So, which hints at they also revealed
Tony Todd's voice too.
They also revealed multiple Candyman, and then in fact throughout most of the film, you don't get Tony Todd's Candyman. In fact, you get one of them that they talked about.
I was questioning whether they had used that as a marketing scam in the trailers. I was like, hold on here, we're at the end of the movie and he's not around.
Yeah. So I forgot the name of the person who was Candyman, the character. I think it was Sherman something.
Oh, the guy that was the nice guy, right?
Yeah, candy and all that.
Yeah, I think it was Sherman.
Yeah. I thought he did pretty good as Candyman.
Oh, it was heart-wrenching when he died, man. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I was mad.
The look on his face and everything.
Right.
And again, it talks about with the racial injustice and that, and stuff like police brutality and that.
Right.
So.
And then, even though he knew the police were coming and he was probably gonna die, he still gave the little boy a piece of candy.
Oh, yeah.
That was oh man,
Yeah, he gave. I think the character's name was Bert.
Yeah.
Because that was him when he was a child.
And him as an adult later on.
Yeah, and Bert is kind of one of those characters that gives a lot of exposition through the movie.
Yeah.
To the main character and everything, but. So yeah, and one of the big twist reveals again is that the character of Anthony is actually the baby from the first film that Helen saves, actually, which I kind of figured out through the trailer, you know. So, but I'm sure there were probably some people didn't pick up on that through the trailer. I just kind of picked up on that, so. And, well, I know there's some people who had issues with that twist, like I know Cody Leach, for instance, he had an issue with that. Well, not that he thinks it could have not worked, it's just that for him personally, like he wished there was a bit more, you know, connections between the character and him being that baby and all that, having more connections than was showed, because like he feels like he could have just been just original character, you know, being this artist and all that, and you could cut that out of the film.
I kind of like the way they tied him in.
Yeah, I did too. That's one thing I would have to disagree with him on.
Yeah.
So, again, it's his opinion. You
Right.
know? So, but yeah, so yeah, I felt like the way they handled it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, they even brought back, I think her name is Vanessa Williams, who was the mother in the original. So they brought her back.
I didn't catch that in the trailers, dude.
So, oh, she was in the trailer.
I know she was, because she said, don't say that, you know, but I did not catch that in the trailer.
Yeah, so, and that's how I kind of figured, oh, you know, Anthony was the baby.
Right.
First film.
Right.
That was saved. So. And, so that wasn't like a big shock to me or anything, I will admit, because I kind of figured that from the trailers. But I could see that being a shock to people who probably didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
So. And, then the other reveal was, the character Bert was trying to, in a way, help push Anthony to become Candyman.
Right.
So.
No, he was trying to create him into it. It wasn't so much a push as a downright, you know.
Yeah, like trying to.
He was manipulating him.
Him and that, because apparently, you know, he's wanting to use the lore of Candyman and that to drive away, you know, cops and stuff like that.
From Green, right.
So, so, and on the one hand, I'm kind of mixed on this twist reveal. On the one hand, I think it is kind of interesting and that, but I feel like there's some bits missing from the twist that could maybe, you know, like maybe like between, like right before the climax and the climax, I feel like there might have been like 15 minutes probably cut from it. I'm not sure if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Because it went by like the climax. I mean, this was a very deliberately paced film, and then the climax was kind of rushed.
Yeah, it was like straight in your face after the entire movie was a very smooth, slow procession, you know?
Yeah. So, and this was something also Cody Leach mentioned too, and I noticed it in the film.
Yeah.
So, and I will agree with him on that. I think, you know, like it seemed like 15 minutes of the film was cut between, you know, before the climax and the climax.
Right.
So,
I think it's something else too.
Because I mean, this is an hour and a half movie, and for the
we
most
could
part,
have
it
had
is
an hour.
deliberately paced, you know. But then for the climax to be kind of rushed, you know.
Yeah. This is one of those movies that I would have been okay with, like a 2-hour movie, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I think it would benefit it more so from a 2-hour movie.
Especially if you picked up the pace at the end, you know, like just a little bit instead of like full throttle to the end.
Kind of slowed it down a bit.
Yeah.
I think they might have tried to go on for shock value with it, but I think they could have, you know, added some more stuff to it.
Yeah.
So kind of like pad the pacing more, you know, up to climax. So and of course we end up getting Anthony as the new Candyman by the end. So
there was also pieces to that were missing that I would have liked to see. So the original Candyman was always a romantic movie, right? Candyman by nature was a romancer,
like it was
right?
like a dark gothic romance.
Right, and he was a heartfelt dude,
with some like like racial social issues.
Right. Right, and the part that you really missed in the end of this that I think should have been added was Anthony coming back for the girl he loved.
Oh
you
yeah,
know, right?
So, yeah.
Like, obviously, so this gets a little bit confusing. Who saved her at the end? Was it Anthony or was it?
I think it was, well, actually I think she was the one who killed Burke, actually.
Right, but who saved her when she was in the cop car?
I think it might have been Anthony.
Was it?
Yeah.
See, I got lost in that. I wasn't sure if it was Anthony or.
Like, using his Candyman powers.
Yeah.
If you will. So, and basically.
Oh yeah, because he walked out of the building and killed that first cop straight out of the building. Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things I wasn't sure, because in the trailer, like, I knew there was a different voice for Candyman, just based on the trailer.
Yeah.
Because it sounded different from Tony Todd in the first trailer. And one of the things I wasn't sure on is, like, cause this was kind of a mixed thing for me when I watched the trailer, was I wasn't sure how well this guy would be as Candyman.
Yeah.
And mostly it was due to the voice. I felt like the voice, he was almost kind of trying too hard.
And they toned it way down in the movie.
Yeah, honestly, in the movie it's way better. I don't know why they just didn't went with this for the trailer.
Yeah. Well, the last time he talked, they did that. They kind of digitally altered it to a deeper, more gravelly.
Well, and also let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Tony Todd as, the original Candyman, which a lot of people were kind of questioning, how, where his placement is in the film and all that.
And it's his homage,
Yeah, well, it basically boils down to a cameo,
Yeah.
He really only shows up at the end of the film.
Yeah, it's kind of...
like Anthony kind of turns into the original Tony Todd Candyman. It's like... And all he just says is, like, tell everyone. So... And that's...
Are you sure Anthony turned into him?
Well, I don't know, but it's like... It did show, like, that was Anthony's body and all that, and his head turned into Tony Todd's face and all that. And that was Tony Todd's voice, so yeah, I don't know, it's just, I guess it's one of those things you could,
Oh, and then she does tell everybody that, okay, because remember the last shot of the...
Actually, I think that was an alternate ending.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
that was an alternate ending, because on the DVD it just kind of...
Started playing the special features. I think that should have been the ending period. That should have been tacked on after the Tony Todd part.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Could have been good, I think.
Because then she would have went and started telling the world about him through art, right?
Yeah. So, and for me, honestly, I know there's some people like, again, Cody Leach in his review, he did mention...
I'm taking it he didn't love this movie.
Oh, he liked it.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, he liked it. In fact, he would say it's his second favorite film in the franchise.
And that's the same thing you said, isn't it?
Yeah, which we'll get to that in my ranking of the franchise eventually.
Right.
Which, but for him, his issue was he would like, and this is just kind of a nitpick, but for him, he just wished there was a bit more of Tony Todd for him, in the movie. I mean, he gets why they didn't do that, but just for him, it's like...
You feel the same way, don't you?
Not really, actually.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, I think they did such a great job with,
You're like a Tony Todd fanboy, dude, so the fact that you're saying that's amazing.
I mean, I think for a film that tried to, kind of move away from Tony Todd's Candyman...
They did a good job.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like, this is probably the best way I feel like they could have done with that. So yeah, I thought they did a great job with doing a film that didn't have to rely on Tony Todd's Candyman.
Right.
So...
Right.
Overall, I thought this film respected the legacy of the original film, which that was another thing I was kind of concerned on. And yeah, overall, this is probably the best sequel we've ever gotten to of the franchise. And honestly, the other sequels gave us such a low bar for that one. Like, so even if this film was a decent movie, it would still be like the best sequel we got.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoyed this. So your closing thoughts on this movie before we say bye-bye?
I think I've pretty much said all of mine. Like, it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, especially if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you have seen it, watch it again.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And go into it with the open mind, so
Yeah.
you're not,
And if you're one of those people who get, uncomfortable or it's woke just because, it has deals with race or stuff like that, this is probably not your movie. Just, yeah. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.